So the rule for life, as Jesus gives it to us, Matthew chapter 7, verse 1, judge not, that ye be not judged. So the best thing is just don't judge. Just don't become a person who places judgment on somebody else, assesses value, makes a determination of whether or not they're even worthy of your time or attention or anything else. A lot of times just write them off. Sometimes become very, very critical of somebody else. Well, as I'm reading this, and a lot of times in sermons, I'll just sit down and say, Lord, just show me what you would have me to see here. And I just began to make notes. But as I came to the end of that, it occurred to me that the best example to really illustrate this is another story that Jesus told as the master storyteller. And he told us about a man who was on the Jericho road. And he ended up coming up on a man who had been abused. He'd been cast into a ditch. He was bruised and bleeding, and he was left there to die. And Jesus told us about two other men who had passed by. And Jesus very, very smoothly illustrated how oftentimes people who are the most religious can often be the ones that are also the most critical and the most judgmental, because both of the two men who came before the certain Samaritan that Luke talks about in his writings, the certain Samaritan had already made assessments. They'd already judged that man in the ditch, and they determined that he wasn't worth their time. But here is the key ingredient to understanding the point that Jesus made in that story. Because as Luke tells it, or retells the story that Jesus gave us, he says, there was a certain Samaritan on the dark and bloody way, the Jericho road. And he sees the man in the ditch, and it says, this is the words that's written in Scripture, that he was moved by compassion. It's very clearly written there. He was moved by compassion. He didn't make predetermined thoughts about, I bet that guy was a thief. I bet he was a robber himself. I bet he's just a bad man and he deserves to be down there in that ditch. That man deserves to die. Well, obviously, the priest and the Levite had already made that determination. They'd already done their judging and made their assessment, and they determined the man wasn't worthy to live because they weren't going to bend a knee or lend a hand. But this man, this certain Samaritan, did, because he didn't take the time to pass judgment on the man. He just got down off his beast of burden and went down in the ditch, did the dirty work, did the hard work, and he had compassion, and he ministered to that person. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the good news. That is the gospel of Jesus Christ. This is Pastor Jack King with the gospel on the radio broadcast.